Morning all. Welcome to week 15, day 6 of Urban Agoge. Apologies for no video yesterday. Things happened. Stuff. I essentially had most of a day, apart from a social visit in the afternoon, to just tinker with the 3D printer. And to be honest, I think it was a day well spent. I think I got a lot closer. My only real problem now is really bed adherence, and I think I'm pretty good to go. So I just need to increase the bed temperature for the first couple of layers so that they've got good adherence to the bed really, and I'm pretty good to go. Yeah. So the temptation really with the 3D printer is to print loads and loads and loads of knickknacks, and whilst that's all well and good, I've really got into this idea of printing out stuff that's actually useful. You know, so whilst I have printed a couple of fancy pen pots, I do know that, you know, having a couple of pen pots, even though a pen pot is the easiest thing to make, you know, you need a pen pot, use an old tin can. Dead easy. Yeah, but I wasn't quite as good as hunting for things. So I found some stuff that could be described as tactical on Thingiverse. And yeah. It's one of those things. So yeah. So I decided to try and print a bit of a survival kit. Given that I found an Altoids tin, or an Altoids size tin, which is the same as a half-size tobacco tin really. Oh. So yeah, it was cool. So I managed to find an Altoids tin, a set of disposable, you know, emergency cutlery that's printed on a credit card size sprue, and what else did I print? A little tiny one of those little keychain flashlights that will run off a CR2032 battery and an LED. That's literally all the functional bits. And a blade for a little handle for a Stanley knife blade, with those little trapezoid razor blade type things commonly used in scrapers, and a little adjustable tube that you can print sections of. So yeah, so that was good. A little tube with a couple of needles and some thread in it, a couple of sticking plasters or butterfly sutures, a couple of cotton wool balls soaked in Vaseline, oh, and a little sparker. I found out that the little sparker things with the flints in from Clipper lighters can be bought separately. So yeah, for about 30 pence each. CR2032 batteries are easy to come by, and an LED. And a Stanley knife blade. So your actual input into the survival kit's about 50p or 75p at the most. Add in the probably 50p's worth of plastic it takes to print all that. It's pretty good. So yeah. So if, like me, you're quite into the idea of having a survival kit, or a set of spares for the really crucial stuff in your possession that didn't weigh a lot because it's all plastic, because it doesn't need to be anything else. And the little box is very, very sturdy. I don't see anybody breaking that anytime soon. So yeah, well, there you are. Yes, so I'll leave it to you, the audience, to be the judge whether it was worth not really having a video on a rainy day for me taking some time out to learn a new skill. Personally speaking, I think it's a good idea. I'd recommend anybody doing it. So yeah, I think I'm pretty much dialed in on the 3D printer. So yes. I have no idea whether you saw that, but if there is anything on screen that looked like a little blue blur, and if you heard the cheeping in the background, a little that didn't sound like birdsong at all, that was a kingfisher. I like it when things like that happen. I kind of hope that, you know, there's some a couple of frames of that. That'd be fun. That's why you come out in the morning before everybody else has had a chance to get out. It did rain horrendously yesterday, which was one of the reasons I didn't go out in the morning. It was chucking it down, and it didn't stop. It was very much Manchestering. I think it stopped for about 5 or 10 minutes at a time. So yeah, had a good wander around the record stores, or some of the record stores of Manchester with Remdimon. Went to Zifferblatt, which is one of the only corporations I can kind of get behind. In case you haven't watched anything where I've talked about Zifferblatt, a concept of which I thoroughly approve and exists in the philosophy section. It's like a philosophical coffee shop, and the idea is that you pay about £3.50 to £4 per hour that you spend in the coffee shop, and the coffee shop is all self-service and is super comfortable. Maybe I should do a video about Zifferblatt for the YouTube channel, and maybe get some time-lapse footage, because I just think it's a really great idea, and it could do with being promoted as a concept. It's a franchisable operation, but I think it only works on a certain bohemian level, because I think the temptation for a coffee shop where you clock in and clock out is open to abuse, and you probably only want the kind of customers that are going to be appreciative and think that it's a fair dues. So yeah, there was lots of stuff. Yeah, I like Zifferblatt. But essentially, you walk in, you clock in, and when and all the food and drink is free, including simple snacks, breakfast cereal, and cakes and biscuits and stuff like that, and fruit. And they've got soft drinks and coffee machines and dishwashers and stuff like that, and a few volunteers, of which I'm sort of tempted to become one a little bit. There's a little bit of me that could really go for working 4 to 6 hours a week in Zifferblatt, just tidying up, doing what I do now, because their thing for volunteers is for every hour you work there, you get 2 hours of Zifferblatt time, and I spend enough time in there to make that, you know, reasonable. But having somewhere you can go is kind of cool. a place where you can just chill out. It's all nice sofas and chairs and workstations and things like that. So yeah, I wonder where the Zifferblatt is in Manchester. Well, it works really well. It's a nice building. And we've got a deal on at the moment where you pay for your first 4 hours. And the rest of the day is free. We've got a cap of 4 hours. Which is just bloody great. And that's the kind of like new, you know, if you're going to save capitalism, there's a kind of like novel thinking that you need. I think capitalism's kind of doomed anyway, because most of the things that people want are kind of stupid. They really are. I mean, once you get something that's even remotely artificially intelligent and can reproduce anything, you know, I'm not talking about matter replicators, but I'm talking about, you know, the ability to, with a few small machines, you know, run up a bespoke circuit board with all the relevant components on it, or a chip doing the job of the relevant components, and build a casing for it and some kind of power source that can be printed. You're pretty much there. It's a nice drop, isn't it? I'm not going down there because it looks pretty muddy down there and it looks pretty hard to get back up. That's how you know I'm getting old. It's none of this daredevil crap. I've got a job to do this today. I've got money to earn to pay for my continued existence and space allocation and food and things. So yeah, the week after next, I'm off to see a long-term friend of mine, probably the person I've known for the longest out of all my friends, for a couple of days, and then going with another friend to the Byline Festival, to which I'll be taking this camera. So, need to think up my pitch for Urban Agoge, as in see if there's anybody that I would like to interview for a few minutes. That'll be interesting. You know, there's two possibilities with the Byline Festival, and its byline is the festival that's aiming to change the world, which is big talk. But I will attempt to remain open-minded for the entire length of the gig. I mean, even if I get all the way down there and I only get to see one truly impressive person, one person that makes me think, at least somebody else is thinking about it. Okay, so I will go open-minded. I will take this camera. I will talk to people. And we'll see. We'll see if there are any worthwhile plans on changing the world. I've no idea. So yeah, so I kind of choose up my ability to do exercise that week as well. But is it going to be worth it? Well, it's probably the only thing that approximates a holiday that I'll be getting this year. So there's that. It would be nice to actually go somewhere. So yes. So yeah, so that's one of those camping festivals. So you're going down there. I've ordered a new tent for it because I needed something with a fairly small footprint. which supposedly is an 8-person tent, which is 8 very, very, very small people. At 2 meters by 2.5 meters, that's not an 8-person tent. That's like underneath a basher. So yeah. Yeah, but other than that, it's kind of business as usual. I'm glad I learned more about the 3D printing. I'm glad I took my time with it yesterday. I'm glad I printed the objects I did. It was probably about 6 hours of actual printing. I did try some other software, wasn't having it. Moved the 3D printer so it was at least close to my workstation, so I wasn't walking across the room every time I wanted to stop a print. Can't seem to connect to the 3D printer from Linux, which is pretty typical. Doesn't like random USB stuff, and I don't think there are any Linux drivers. Not that such things really exist to make it happen. So yeah, I think the 3D printer needs to remain separate from the computer. But it is still all, 95% of 3D printing is about the file that you put on the SD card to put in the 3D printer. That needs to be sorted out. The other 5% is leveling the bed and making sure there's filament in it, and making sure the bed surface it's possible for the bed surface to be adhered to. So yeah, I'm gonna have a go at that. Let's go back this way. So yeah, so I'm getting the hang of the G-code. There is a certain amount of tinkering with that still to be done. A few settings, but yeah, I think I've got it pretty much dialed in. Come to the realization that although it's nice to have another colour printing for supports and stuff so you can see where the supports are, it's also quite a good idea to print multi-part kits for things out of the same type of filament at least. Doesn't necessarily need to be the same colour, but it does need to be the same composition, which be interesting. So yeah, very weird. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, unless you're totally sure that the filament that you're using is the same sort of filament or the same manufacturer of filament. I can see why people go out their way to buy branded filament. So you can just say, right, this is their standard PLA in blue, this is their standard PLA in red. I'm fairly sure that the only difference between these two types of PLA is is the colour. And that's when you can print multi-parts or multi-layer stuff with different colours of PLA. Something to learn from the future, and unfortunately the the 2 reels of PLA I bought with the assistance of my patrons this month are from the same manufacturer, but the ones that I've already got in the printer are not. So yeah, so there's that. Whoa, that was very slippy on a flat bit. So yeah, so you live and learn. So a forthcoming video on this particular printer, but may give you some insights into other printers, given that a lot of it is open source. So there are going to be minor differences, but I will try and produce a video or videos that pretty much show you how to set up a print. But definitely on 3D printing you need to start small You need to print really small, low detail objects until you get the hang of it. Ideally without any overhangs. So yeah. Just so you can make sure that, you know, the more important bits and bobs are working okay. It's very annoying to get 3/4 of the way through a very long detail print to find out that something's not quite right. So yeah. So there are people playing games with the technology and stuff like that, and trying to make stuff that requires no support, which is good. You can find a design of something that works but doesn't have any support, then go for it. You can, because supports are a hassle. Like rafts and skirts, you know, the sort of like extra wide layers at the bottom can be a hassle. If you can print without needing lots and lots of support material, or you can find a design that doesn't require it, I would recommend doing that. So there are some issues, yeah, but it's very much an anti-working class hobby. People are not interested if you don't want to invest lots and lots of money. You know, a lot of people on forums aren't interested in people just starting and dipping their toe in the water and thinking that off the bat 150 to 200 pounds is a lot to invest. That's, I suppose that's the problem. If you're successfully very nerdy and you've got a very good job, inviting someone to spend 150 pounds plus on a piece of software that will do the job of free software but slightly better, and aren't prepared to help out with an idea of settings, then you're going to get a lot of frustrated people out there. But that's not what we do on Urban Agoge. So yeah. So yeah, so incoming video about that, where I go into, like, I'll do an on-screen recording of the software and a recording of the printing. But yeah, it's still a viable printer. It was a lot less hassle to set up. I had it printing within 20 minutes, and then I've spent a couple of weeks really just learning about it. So, and I've still got a few experiments to do. I wouldn't say I'm an authority yet, but I think I can shortcut people away from a lot of the frustrations. And I know I'm talking about it a lot, but it's that, you know, manufacture of your own goods. Last night I made a clip-on LED flashlight that the only electronics required is the battery and a sensible way of bending the legs of a single LED. LEDs cost like a penny. The batteries are about 20p. You know, that's the sort of thing that I would have loads of. You know, it's good to be able to engineer your own kit, make spares. You know, be in a position where you could actually help people if you know, if the economic system broke down at all. You're empowered to sort stuff out. You're empowered to employ yourself. You know, if I can get the detail thing down, there are probably things I could quite easily sell online, or to people, you know, to illustrate how they too could do it. But yes, those are thoughts for another time. I know I'm obsessed by it. I know it's kind of ruined the whole Agoge thing for the moment, or for at least this week. I will be up and running on Monday. Promise. And I've got a whole weekend to work. It'd be nice if the weather just got nicer, so I didn't look out at it balefully. Anyway, that's me done for the day. Thanks for watching, and do take care.